Recording in progress.
Meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. It's 9 a.m. This is the Rice Creek Watershed Board of Managers regular meeting. We're meeting in the Shoreview City Hall Council Chambers. Let the record reflect that all managers are present. Teresa is being ably assisted today by Anna Grace. Thank you for joining us today. And Nick, you have a change to the agenda.
Yes. Board of Managers staff would like to propose a new action item number 2. This will be the Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers 2025 calendar, an amendment to that. You had a handout for that at your place.
Okay, I move approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second. Everybody seconds.
Everybody's in.
Everybody's on board.
Therefore, by the number of seconds we have, I know there's a full approval here. Moving on to approval of minutes. Could I?
Yeah, Mr. President, I would move the approval of the minutes from the April 24, 2024 regular meeting.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Passes. We're up to Patrick.
Yes, good morning, President Bradley. Staff have 2 applications for your consideration today. Just quick note that 2419 is a project that you had conditionally approved before. They went to phasing, and now they're back for the full development design.
Okay. Any questions for Patrick? Hearing none, can I have a motion, please?
Mr. President, I would move to Cap Rock permit number 24-016 and 24-019 as outlined in the above table of contents, in accordance with Rice Creek District Engineer's findings and recommendations dated April 29th, 2024.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. So that takes us then to Molly.
All right, good morning, Mr. President, Board of Managers. For your consideration today, under the consent agenda are 3 applications, 2 of which are new applications in Ramsey County, R24-05 Frisch Rain Garden and R24-06 Mason Rain Garden. And then we do have a reapplication, R24-07, that is the Tim Shoreline Restoration and Stabilization. Due to some complications with the contractor, the applicant was unable to complete during the 18-month period, so he is reapplying for another application. I have Brian Olson present in replacement of Nick Nealon to answer any technical questions that you may have.
Are there any questions of Molly or Brian? Hearing none?
Well, Mr. Chair, I know you were at the CAC meeting.
I
Can
was.
you give us a bit of review about the discussion from the CAC members?
As we are all familiar, the CAC took their job very seriously. They went through these with fine detail. They looked at whether or not the existing or proposed sidewalk in one case was going to dam up water, preventing the rain garden from performing its function. They concluded it would not. One of the projects, I think and Frisch one is fairly small. It's just her backyard and basically her garage and her house. So thus the 50% compared to the 75% on the next 2406. Based on their discussion, I support their conclusion that we should approve these.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I'm looking for just as the treasurer, I'd let you know that, I think we got the report in here, that I have discussed with Teresa how those payments get made to the landowners after their approval and completion, and the system, the internal system that we have some checks on what gets paid and what doesn't and how that all works. And I'm very confident that the internal system on the financial reimbursement to these projects is in place.
Excellent. So I think have we had a motion yet?
No, but I would make it.
Thank you.
Okay. I could. How many do we have here?
We have 3.
So, do we want them one at a time? Is that?
I think you can do all 3 together.
I think we can do all 3 together, too. Well, I move approval of the Water Quality Grant Program cost share applications R24-05, R24-06, and R24-07. And noting that the CAC reviewed these and recommended.
I'll second those. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. That takes us to career enhancement options contract. Is that correct?
Open mic.
Thank you.
Open mic. Well, shoot. Nobody on the phone, nobody here, so I think we can move on to the next item.
Very good. Board of Managers, the first item on requiring board action is Career Enhancement Option Services Agreement, an amendment for that. The district holds an existing agreement with what's the acronym CEO, Career Enhancement Options. They provide the district with human resource services. The current agreement requires a date and a not to exceed amendment for continued services. This will move to be a part of the district's biennial notice soliciting professional services, and that is to take place later this year. So with that, staff are recommending that we amend the current agreement until December 31st, 2024, in that the total payment of services for the entire term, which it would be 32 months, some of which of course have passed, increase to a total not to exceed of $90,000.
So that's over a 2.5-year period.
Correct.
We've
We're
already done all but
8.
8 months. Okay.
Yep.
So I will note that I have had the opportunity to work closely with Ellen on several occasions. It's clear, just like we need engineers, just like we need lawyers, we need expertise beyond that we have in-house to do certain difficult tasks. And human relations has become an exceptionally difficult task over the last decade or so. Complexity is without bounds. And Ellen does not try to lead, she tries to inform. And I've found her very helpful for me in my position, and agree with this request. Any other comments?
Well, we have a motion first, then the
Okay, so I
discussion.
will move, thank you. John, I move to approve this requested extension of the contract by $20,000 in 8 months.
So,
I'll second,
I
I'll
know-
second it too.
Oh, I'm
Get the
sorry.
discussion
Okay.
going.
I know I'm a little dated in this because it's been a little while since I was in business, but we never had a consultant like that past. Usually it was a maximum of a month. We had one project where we had somebody help for maybe 2.5 months, but that's all I can ever remember. Other than that, we never had that. And I'm wondering, I hope you don't mind if I ask you this, Jess, but you're more current than I am. I mean, do you guys have a permanent?
No, that would be me.
Yeah, that was me too at our business. That's why I'm curious why we need a full-time consultant. We never did, and
First of all, it's not a full-time consultant. What it is a person who we can hire, we pay her per hour, do we not?
That's correct.
So we only pay her when we use her.
and we seem to be using her a lot.
That's because we need to. That's because,
That concerns me.
well, hopefully as we move along, we now have organizational structure resolved. We have a number of things resolved, but we currently have what, 3 openings you're trying to fill?
Board of Managers, we have currently 6 positions open. That's the organizational structure that we worked through previously. The employee handbook was completed, renewed, which hadn't been previously completed. And you're correct, it's contract for services, so we pay hourly when there's questions or concerns. Most recently, with the departures, exit interviews, those types of things were an important component. Things that perhaps the employee departing wouldn't otherwise share, if you will.
So that's an excellent example where we had 3 employees leave, bang, bang, bang. And concerns were raised to me by several of you. What's the cause? And it was helpful to be able to turn to Ellen and say, Ellen, I'd like you to interview these 3 people and find out what the cause is, and report back. And that's the sort of thing that an outside person can do effectively, much better than I can do, or Nick can do. Because who knows, it could have been me or Nick that they were complaining about. So that's an example. Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, I'm probably one of the persons that you're referring to about asking questions. So I do think that there is value in an individual that has the knowledge base that Ellen has, absolutely, especially with the changing landscape of just even state laws regarding employment and labor. So I do think that there is value in it. However, I do think that the concerns that, Steve or whoever else has, I think they're valid. So what I would suggest, if it's appropriate to do so, I'm not going to vote no on extending the contract for the remainder of the year. We are 5 months in. I'm not going to do that. But I do think as we go through the budgeting process and we're dialoguing, what 2025 and 2026 look like, I do think that it would merit a full conversation and maybe include some of the things that you're dialoguing, like, here's exactly what we paid hourly for Ellen to do. Here's exactly, that would be helpful, I think, because I can see how when you read this, you see $90,000 and you're like, holy smokes, that's basically a full-time employee. I get it. But I think drilling down what the value is and where it lies, and then doing it in a timely fashion, so as we look towards 2025, if there needs to be a reassessment of what her duties are, let's do that. So I have no intention on,
That's
voting
fair.
no, but I do think it merits a conversation. If that's, I think that's a fair ask. Okay.
If I could, yes, Board of Managers, I would agree. That's a fair ask. Like I noted, this will be every 2 years as a public entity, we have to solicit requests for proposals, engineering, legal, and it would include this one. So you'll see firsthand those proposals as they come in, their hourly charging rates and the services they offer and their expertise, their credentials, so.
I appreciate that. And then if you could just ensure to include like what it has been up to this point, that would be
Okay.
helpful. Thank you.
John?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, Mr. President, I didn't vote for the $50,000 increase from 25 or to 70,000 before because I felt the mission had been accomplished at that time. I still think it's been done. The $20,000 increase in order to finish this contract and time extending it tells me that the 70's already been used up. And so I don't disagree that it needs to be examined. I'm not in favor of extending the contract as it is now. I don't think there's a need for a full-time human resource person available to the district on staff as another consultant. And like I said, the basic of this business for having a human resource person hired, I think you've summarized very well that they accomplished that mission and therefore no need to continue.
Could I ask one question too? I mean, can't you call them at any time you need them? Whether.
That's what we do here.
I understand that, but I mean,
But you've got somebody who knows us and knows our positions and knows our staff. So you've got a tremendous advantage starting out using someone who knows your organization, your people. The other option would be to call.
well, no, I mean,
lawyer,
you could call,
which is
the same.
an alternative source of information. I prefer that she's cheaper.
Well, Mr. President, you could always use the county's resources. We have 3 different counties. They have expertise in this. They have larger staff and they have permanent human resource people available who would understand the government structures and how things work very well. So I before you call a lawyer at a really high rate, who's going to call another lawyer because it isn't his specialty.
Right.
And so I mean, that's the way I look at it. I think that some of these consulting things that we often do, like this, are done every so many years to update our book, as you said, and available.
Fascinating,
So.
John. I've never heard the county come to us and say, here's services we could provide you.
That's true. I don't believe the county ever has, but we've never gone to them and asked them either, have we? There's an alternative.
Mr. Chair, again, I think this is why a conversation identified in a workshop would be appropriate to go through all the pros, all the cons, and just hash it out
Yeah.
in a workshop.
So, Mr. President, I'll call the question then.
There you go. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose. Same sign.
Thank you. Thank you for this discussion. So are we at the calendar change?
Yes, Board of Managers, action item number 2 is the Board of Managers 2024 calendar amendment. So for the current year, we discussed at the workshop and came to consensus on a budget calendar for our budget activity going for developing 2025's budget, which required a public hearing change on the existing calendar. So August 14th has the proposed public hearing on the budget. That was the noted change.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to adopt the revised 2024 Board of Managers calendar.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, thank you.
Manager Bradley?
Yes.
I'll just note that I did email out an amended calendar version just to note what the change there was. Teresa noted it'd probably be good to have a little bit more time on noticing that public hearing, so we just changed the date on at which staff would on or about take that action.
That's great.
Thank you.
Check register.
Mr. Chair, the check register is on page 65, and I would move to approve the May 28th, 2024 check register in the amount of $145,469.19 prepared by Redpath and Company.
I will second that. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So this takes us to Tom.
Yes. Next, you have items for discussion and information. Tom is here to report on Noak County Ditch 102232 and the wetland replacement plan at Pine Street.
You behind there, Tom?
Yes, Mr. President.
Lower just a
Yeah.
little bit.
Should be on the right side.
There you go.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
I see a phone book I can stand on.
Channel
You
11.
could find one.
Mr. President, Board of Managers, good morning. As the memo states, this is an update on the maintenance 4 alternative for 102232 north of Pine Street. At your workshop on the 6th of November, you directed staff to continue to develop and evaluate the maintenance alternative number 4, the ASIC, the full ASIC option. AXIC. You never could get that correct. Which we did, which we've been doing, and we've engaged DNR rigorously to try to get them to show their cards, if you will, of what they're going to expect for mitigation requirements. And while we've made some progress, it's been slow at best or intermittent, still not clear. So we've looked at each piece of the maintenance alternative individually as components, and we feel that the Pine Street culvert is independent and of its own value to do. It provides relief for lands upstream of it, so we're proposing to do that work as a maintenance project this year as a added incentive with the change in the law for Wetland Conservation Act.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have more onerous mitigation requirements possibly, so I feel that time is of the essence to do this work. However, it doesn't mean we're not going to continue to evaluate the other pieces of this alternative and keep pushing the DNR to provide us with an answer and continue to move forward. So it's just an update of what we're planning to do.
Tom, do we need a permit specifically for this part of the project? Or do we need other official action by the DNR, or is this something that,
For Pine Street, I'm sorry, Mr.
yeah, go
President.
ahead.
For Pine Street, it's a Wetland Conservation Act exercise, so it's not a DNR. Chris?
Before I turn to Chris, so in my previous life, when I was dealing with railroads who were equally as obstinate as the DNR, what we would do is advise
I
them
beg your pardon.
that on June 5th, at 10 o'clock, we are going to start this.
Right.
So go ahead. First of all, he was there, and then I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, and just to further what Tom was saying on Pine Street, it's a wetland banking application that, I should say, a wetland replacement plan that we are submitting into the district as the LGU for that, and then the district will be considering that, and then what we intend to do then is draw from Brown's Preserve. It's roughly about 2 wetland credits then for that action.
Okay. Heck?
Yes, thank you. Board of Managers, as Tom said, and thanks, Chris, for that, independent utility of the different segments. So here DNR isn't involved in that the culvert at Pine Street is a Wetland Conservation Act subject to that law. Upstream further, the existing condition controls the public waters wetlands that are DNR's jurisdiction. There we don't have clarity on the what criteria they're utilizing to identify the impacts and how the district may mitigate for them if there are impacts. They've requested the district modeling of this and some clarity in that, and the dialogue continues there. Hopefully we'll hear back soon.
So are you dealing with a hydrologist in the region, or where's this conversation being had within?
I'm sorry, Manager, the DNR you're referring to?
Yeah,
Yes, it's with the area hydrologist
the area hydrologist.
and the area hydrologist supervisor.
Correct. And then they also have other technical staff that they've been drawing in as well that are experienced in hydrologic modeling, that sort of thing. So it's been, as Nick indicated, an iterative process. It's been back and forth. I think our last communication with them was about a week and a half ago or so.
Okay,
So it's one of those things where they ask for one thing, we've provided, then they say, well, we'd like something else here. We've provided that, and each step takes,
Yeah.
a couple weeks to go back and forth on.
Okay, so
And they're
it's
also in
process.
contact with the state drainage board that they have. The DNR has a statewide drainage panel
The
of
drainage.
experts.
Okay.
So that's also one of the
So,
places that the information's going to and coming back.
so for your consideration, give a deadline. We have an obligation to get this done. We need to do this while it's summer or spring, whatever it is. And therefore, we need your response by date. And absent a response, it is our intention to implement the plan we've provided you. A thought to discuss. Because they'll go on forever.
Board of Managers, Manager Bradley, yes, we can certainly exert a date and tell them the importance that the board has shared with us in regarding getting this work moving. It's been present a long time and had a whole lot of discussion, and obviously we want to fulfill our maintenance obligations on the system.
So, Mr. President, just so not to be confused here, I believe what they've done, the staff is proposing today, is talking about a portion of the whole project, and what you're talking about is the portion that they're not talking about today. And I don't disagree with anything that you've said about the portion they're not talking about.
Right.
But the portion they are talking about, I think they brought it for discussion to see if the board supported it, and that's what
Well, that's the portion, actually, I was thinking we could
We can do.
Right.
say, we've had all these discussions, here's what we need to get this done in time.
Board of Managers, Manager Waller, Manager Bradley, correct capture of the situation. Yes, we're talking about the Wetland Conservation Act. Be a good comparison to say, look how fluidly we can move through the system and provide the documentation to complete the maintenance on the system. We can provide them the date, as you said, and suggest the importance that exists there. The Pine Street culvert, and its Wetland Conservation Act jurisdiction and the mitigation that's required there does have independent utility, meaning it will drain the waters from there up to the next culvert, which I believe is a field crossing or a driveway at 137th. In any event, that the landowner in that area, at least one of them, has communicated, I got high water too, let's move it along. So not that that's our only motivation, we have an obligation, but it's
Something to point out.
representative of our duties.
Yeah, that, Mr. President, that was one thing I kind of wanted to back what you said is I think we need to exert our authority at some point and
Yeah.
cut it off. I mean, we've gone through this how many times and it goes nowhere. And I think at some point we've got to do what we have to do. I mean, we are a state agency also, and we have responsibilities, and they have to be done. And I think we need to do exactly what Mike said, or Mr. President said. That's
Board of Managers, it's probably worthwhile to state that the district's experience is not unique, that this back and forth with DNR is common for public drainage authorities. I know there's a lot of dialogue that goes on between Association of Minnesota Counties, the Drainage Work Group, Minnesota Watersheds to try and get ways to move forward, and there's lots of pressure on both sides. Don't disagree with Manager Wagaman that as a local government unit, the district has obligations to undertake as well and move those in a reasonable amount of time forward.
And Mr. President, may I add?
Please.
The elements as a chain of events, Pine Street, while it's independent value, the other two elements are ultimately dependent upon Pine Street for success. If you let the water out above Pine Street but don't open Pine Street up, there's really no point. So that's why it's of even more benefit and utility to do.
Excellent point.
Mr. President, I don't know if the board needs to, if the staff wants a consensus from the board to move ahead, or this isn't an item for action, it's under discussion. And so I support moving the Pine Street culvert down and moving ahead. I also, Tom, I have a question for you. I guess I've never heard of the DNR has a special drainage group within the DNR that concentrates on the entire state. Has that been around a while there because they changed things around a while back. They called it ecological services. That's what you described the portions of, as the barrier. And I'm just wondering if that's a new approach or something new, because over the years I don't remember hearing that they had that drainage. You have an answer for me, Chris, or something?
Sure, yeah, Manager Water, members of the board. For, I would guess, the last maybe 4 or 5 years, they've actually identified 4 different regions of the state where you're supposed to send anything drainage related to the DNR. And so that was kind of the initiation of that group that would meet on that, and they've become a little more formalized since then. So I think it still now consists of about 4 or 5 members, something like that review drainage efforts, projects all across the state that come into the DNR.
Thank you, Chris, for an answer. I wasn't aware that they had created that, but that's about the same time ecological services came into effect, or that's a relatively new department and such. So.
Further thought is, as I understand, the issue is not whether or not we should or should not lower Pine Street, but whether or not we have a particular level of mitigation obligation. And it seems to me we should be able to proceed with fixing the problem and continue any further discussions as necessary on mitigation levels.
Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, generally correct. The district board has delegated authority for wetland delineation. Where is it not? And the typing that goes with that to staff. That's been completed for this Pine Street project. Further, replacement plans come to the board for consideration. So at a future date, it'll be on the agenda, and Patrick can speak to their review and any TEP comments and its approval. To Manager Waller's point, so it is an informational item at this time. You had asked us to investigate alternative 4. We're doing that. It's segmented into different independent utilities. This is the first step, as Tom noted. The downstream condition is the keystone. Otherwise, the rest of the projects make no sense. We'll continue the work with DNR. They define what are the impacts, and we're like, well, what's the criteria you're using? Well, we don't know. Let us see the model. and so we get into this back and forth.
Mr. President, thank you, and thank you for bringing up the issue about the use of incidental exemptions for mitigation, the issue of mitigation. And as I said at the workshop on Monday, and you so kindly checked for me immediately to see if they had eliminated those exemptions, I believe that the district has to begin to use all of those that are listed there, including number 3, which is the one about an action taken not intended to create a wetland. I don't believe the district had ever intended with its deferred maintenance program to create wetlands. And so therefore, I mean, if they did intend to do that, it'd be almost be a willful bad behavior. And pardon my language, gentlemen, they're lawyers, I don't have the technical nomenclature that's necessary here. But and so I think that we should be aware that these actions of deferred maintenance were not intended to create wetlands, and that should be taken into account, because if you're going to say, well, you've got a wetland created, it was a result of your program, that would be, like I say, willful bad behavior on a government that's supposed to have, one of the reasons this organization was created was for the purpose of providing the drainage, and that was well before any of these new laws, as you pointed out, have created. With that, Mr. President, I don't have any more to say. Thank you.
Okay. I think you've received all the directions from us you want.
Thank you.
And more, probably.
Probably a lot more. Very right. It's in your hands. As I once so famously said, make it so. Okay, what's next?
Next on the agenda is the district engineer update and timeline.
Chris, anything to say?
Mr. President, members of the board, no, I don't have anything particular to go over, but certainly could address any questions you might have.
Any questions, Chris? Hearing none. Okay. So,
Next on the agenda.
administrator's update.
Yes, well, since Monday, nothing to report.
All right, it's probably good news.
That was easy.
Yep.
Manager Waller.
Mr. President, I did meet with Senator Housley since our last board meeting.
Thank you for that.
And as you know, she is the lead on the minority party on the Senate for the bonding bill. And first words out of my mouth were to start to talk about the bonding bill, and she just told me exactly what I had told her 2 or 3 times before about. So it's on her calendar radar, and I think she's doing the best she can do for for us in the district here. And so other than that, I didn't attend the consortium meeting this month, and just plain forgot. I mean,
Wow.
You're
It
slipping.
was a beautiful
yeah,
day.
yeah, it was.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I'm
You're all
afraid
looking for golf balls.
no, I was,
Yeah,
I was,
actually.
well, that too, but
hunting.
I was moving walnut tree seedlings, and so that's, got involved with doing that.
Those are tough to get out.
You have to have a big shovel.
Why not?
Manager Bradley and I will be on, as well as Nick, will be on a conference call on Friday morning with the Ramsey County North Ramsey County local elected officials. So Manager Waller, this might be a first step in having opportunity to discuss with others within the county about water-related issues.
So, John, they have been doing this for some time, and because of effort, I think, by Manager Wynand, they said, well, this time, maybe we ought to invite the watershed districts. So we've got our first invite.
Well, colleagues, congratulations. It's something that Washington County's been going on for a very long time.
Leadership is noted.
And it does help, and it clears up a lot of other issues. I think you learn from listening to what goes on. So congratulations on the progressiveness of Ramsey County.
Anything else?
That's it.
My stars.
Manager Wackerman,
I have nothing.
Manager Robertson.
Yeah, I do want to follow up. I understand at the workshop on Monday, there was some discussion about Circle Pines and their commitment to produce their memo and their corresponding information. That was received. I actually received it on Monday. I understand that there's just been a lot going on. There was a city managers conference, so the city manager was out of town for a week. I think he just got his doctorate, so he was doing whatever in whatever state, celebrating his newfound education. So I do have that. Now, I got to be honest, I know how this works. The city of Blaine, when these types of conversations are going on, I don't know if there is a procedural type of situation in which we schedule a workshop and I make copies of all this. I did provide an email copy to Manager Wagaman, so he has that as well. It was a memo with two correlating attachments, one from WSB, their engineer, and another a map of the sediment in the pond or the ditch that they're referring to. So I'm happy to provide that to whomever it needs to go to. I would assume that there would, again, kind of along the same tone as the employment HR dealio, that we would probably need to set aside some workshop time so that that can be dialogued fully. I did make a follow-up call to Circle Pines, well, multiple, because we met back in April. So I understand there's just been a lot going on there. I understand that. I know they have indicated that their city engineer would be available to the watershed if a workshop was scheduled, that they would be happy to do that. And again, just reiterating, when we scheduled our meeting, we met with both the mayor of Circle Pines and the city manager. So, I understand there is, from what I can understand, being new to the crew here, there is a lot of history here. I'm hoping that we can look past history and just move towards solutions is my objective. So I offered to get involved or, set this meeting. So I don't know what the process is as far as next steps, what that looks like, what you want me to do. Patrick did send this to my city email, so I can forward it to whomever or provide copies, whatever is the appropriate next step. I'm happy to do that.
I would suggest you provide it to Nick.
I can do that.
Nick can decide what's
Yes.
proper.
Board of Managers, Manager Bradley, yes, happy to receive the document. I would propose we put it on for the June workshop.
Sure.
We've waited this long, for payment, and I don't think the issues that are likely noted in the memo are going to go away. So we need to have that dialogue and see what the board would like to do.
Yeah, and really quickly, and Steve, feel free to chime in if I am speaking out of pocket here, but when we did sit down with them, we did address that specifically, the outstanding balance. The dollars that were on the invoice, that they have the amount is there. They have the dollars. It's not like they are, cash poor or something. And so they do have the dollars, the payment can be made. Again, I think we're trying to encourage all parties, let's look past history, let's look towards solutions. We need to separate whatever the settlement issue is from the outstanding balance on the invoice, and we need to find resolve. So is that an accurate?
Yeah, I think that's very accurate, and I think the mayor was very clear too that payment wasn't an issue.
Correct.
With them, period. Just a matter of how and.
I think the fear of not finding resolve to
Yeah,
the issue was the barrier to that. Speculatively, and listen, I'm not looking to make an argument. We can certainly talk about this at the workshop. I think there's just a lot of moving pieces, and I hope that the memo and the attachments provided will steer us towards all being friends.
They seem pretty open to dealing with it. I don't know.
Nick, your face isn't super
They
convinced.
were
Listen,
very
if the Lord
open
can
to
part the Red
dealing
Sea,
with
we
it,
can figure this
however.
out.
Yeah, I would certainly hope so. The district did complete work on city infrastructure at an agreed to amount. We await payment.
Yep.
I realize they have concerns about some action that the city took in its past in creating an impoundment on a public drainage system, and now its maintenance is concerning to them, and they would like us, as I understand it, to supplement or take over that maintenance obligation, which they took. But
No, that
We didn't have
wasn't the
any-
word that wasn't the understanding I had of any kind
in any
from
event,
them.
we've asked them to put in writing what they were looking for, and we now have it, presumably, so we'll
Take a
we're
look.
happy to look at it.
That's great. Thank you for your help.
You're welcome.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to second that. Thank you very much for stepping forward and visiting with them, because I think, to your point, Manager Robertson, some of this is probably past history that many of us at the board have no idea what it's about. So keeping the two items separate is probably the wisest way to go forward. But
And that's
thanks
what
for
we
your time.
advised. Yep,
Yeah,
you're most
thanks for your time to
And
do that.
they were comfortable.
Mr. President, I second both of you in that. Thank you for your efforts.
Yeah.
I look forward to listening to it at the workshop.
So, anything else? If not, a call for motion to adjourn?
Move to
Oh, do you have an
adjourn.
update?
Oh, I was on vacation,
Okay.
so no, I do not.
Sounds like a good update
Other
to
than what
me.
we're gonna do on Friday.
Now move to adjourn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Yay.
Recording stopped.